Here we see the organizational structure of different organizations. Amazon, led by Jeff Bezos, follows a binary tree, splitting into two, and so on. Google, headed by Larry Page and Sergey Brin, along with the CEO, follows a similar structure, except it doesn't split by twos, but falls down as a tree with multiple nodes from each node. Facebook, on the other hand, is a bunch of nodes which are directly connected to each other. Microsoft is little pockets. Each node drops down a little tree of its own, which is an organization within Microsoft, which is competing with another organization in Microsoft. Apple, there's the center node, Steve Jobs, and then everybody else follows out from this center node. And then on the periphery, some nodes connect with each other and follow a tree structure like Amazon or Google, forming little organizations of their own. Oracle has a huge legal tree, just like Amazon, a binary tree, and a separate engineering tree. Alright? So, in 1967, Harvard Business Review rejected a paper submitted by Mel Conway. A year later, Conway's thesis would eventually be dubbed Conway's Law. Conway graduated from Caltech with a master's in physics and from Case Western Reserve with PhD in math. He worked on the Pascal compiler among other notable software projects. Over the course of his career, Conway observed a phenomenon. The product's software teams reflected their organizational structure. Alright, somebody has bad grammar. Reflected. Anyway, let's make that concept a bit more tangible. Nigel Bevan, a usability expert, wrote, "Organizations often produce websites with the content and structure that mirrors the internal concerns of the organization rather than the needs of the website. In other words, the marketing team has a web page, the sales team has a web page, the public relations team has a web page. Rather than reflecting the realities of the customer journey, the internal structure of the company dictates its product architecture." Conway's Law arises in software development projects as well. Put 3 front-end engineers on the same project and the user will have 3 different ways of accomplishing every task: point and click, keyboard shortcut, menu item. If you have 2 different heads of engineering within a company, there will likely be 2 different source control systems, 2 different code check-in processes, 2 different architectures, and so on. In 2008, Alan McCormack and his co-authors researched and validated Conway's Law in HBR by studying the software produced by companies and contrasting that with open source software produced by communities. I'm not sure that the law is truly a law that's universally true, but it does raise the question of whether or not a startup's teams are properly structured. For example, most fast-growing companies start off building a monolithic application, one app server, one database, one logical tier, and eventually migrate to a microservices architecture, where the functionality that uses to be encapsulated within one code base are fragmented into tens or hundreds of different services. And one could argue this is a reflection of 2 forces: the growing size of the engineering team and the rise of DevOps, where developers are responsible not only for coding, but also quality assurance and operations. So small teams of developers can become nearly fully independent of the larger engineering organization, hence microservices. Unfortunately, Conway's Law does not provide a diagnostic tool to help executive teams determine whether or not their organizations are properly structured, nor when a reorganization of a company might make sense. It only raises the question, does our organizational structure lend itself to building the best product for our customer? And that is a very good question to ask periodically.